Welcome back for another CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I may put a few extra details and tidbits that I don't cover here on the show tonight. And while you're at it, check out all the shows we have here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see this week's list, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back.
Notable sales.
And our first notable sale is a book we have looked at before. This is that special Fandango promo that was released about a month ago where you got a free ticket to go see the movie that comes out today. So if you haven't seen Superman already, it is in theaters starting today. Yes, there was a preview last night on Thursday and even a preview before that on Tuesday for Amazon, Amazon Prime members or whatever that was. But as of today, we're still waiting on this book for those of us who've ordered this, so it is still technically a pre-sale, which is why I have it here in the notables and not even considered towards the main list, because this is a book that was limited to about 1,000 copies. It was part of a package that had like a free movie ticket. I think there's a hat or something in there. Cost $59 at the outset. At that initial release, it was already selling from $130 to $180. Prices kind of condensed and kind of averaged out to that $150 to $160 range still as of now. There's a lot more listed still, but most of the listings right now are looking for $200 plus for that same package. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to point it out because we do have Superman in theaters today, and there's some buzz about it. So with that said, that's our first notable, but we're going to stick on that topic for the next notable because for those of you who went to IMAX to go check out Superman, you also got a special treat in that you got a special book here. So Superman for IMAX came out. You get a free comic book. It was a free giveaway at AMC. This is the AMC opening night event. So I believe these were given out last night. And with that, they are already averaging $20. So $20 already for this free book that you could have got if you saw it at IMAX. Now, I don't know how things go at your theater. I've heard tales that you can go and talk to people who work there. Maybe you can grab yourself a couple of copies, this, that, and the other. I don't know how you're going to be able to run that. I'm not really worried about that, but this is a book that was given away. And yes, there's a lot listed right now, and they are all seeking anywhere from that $20 mark all the way up to like $100. So don't get FOMO for it. It is a free book. You remember, this is not the first time we've seen a free AMC book. Remember that Venom book when Venom was released with a Tom Hardy cover, etc.? So just keep that in mind when you're out there shopping, or go to your theater and see if you can grab yourself a copy. Now, those are our notables for the week with Superman being released this weekend. But before we get on to the Hot 10, I want to remind you that you can save 10% off your entire BCW order by using my code RENA10. That's RENA10. Save 10% off your entire order. Get your bags, your boards, your long boxes, your short boxes, your CGC boxes, your top loaders, pages for your cards, basically anything to keep your comics or collectibles safe. BCW's got a product, and you can save 10% off your whole order by using my code RENA10. So you help out the channel, you get yourself a discount. Really got nothing to lose to do so. So with that, we still have the list to get to. So let's start it off with our first book here at number 10.
Number 10.
And at number 10, on the heels of the release of the film, it's not a surprise that Maxwell Lord is in the film. Sean Gunn's brother, or James Gunn's brother Sean, is playing Maxwell Lord in this movie, and we're bound to see him again in other DCU properties. So, interest is back in on Justice League #1 from 1987. Fun run, Kevin Maguire cover here, classic run. A good start with the basically was the Justice Gang in the film. I still haven't seen the movie yet, so just putting that out there right now. Not going to spoil it because I haven't seen the film yet, so there really isn't anything I can spoil. Hopefully, I get to see it this weekend, but my son's got me kind of busy with his sports schedule with swim and football, etc. So, with that said, Justice League #1. Not a ton of volume, but at the bottom half of this list, there isn't a lot of volume. We're talking about just a few things that are standing out from the pack for a little bit. And this one, with over a dozen sales just today, it's a jump over last week where we only had like 3 or 4. Raw's hitting a high of 15 bucks doesn't seem like a lot, but this has been a dollar bin book for ages. Like $1 to $5, you can usually find this pretty easily and pretty cheap. You can still find copies for those prices, but the high mark so far this week was 15 bucks for a Raw, while a CGC 9.8 hit 127.50. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping as far as what prices you're willing to pay for a book like this. And again, maybe you find it cheaper at your shop because there are plenty out there. This was a popular book after all. Now, with that said, let's keep the list rolling and check out number 9.
Number 9.
As I mentioned, not a ton of volume here at the bottom of the list because we do have a few incentive variants to talk about. The first one being this, Uncanny X-Men number 17, brand new mutant, Mutina, a villain. Interesting villain. It was a fun little read there with her starring in a movie, and then we had the new mutant X-Men that are currently in the Uncanny title, kind of meeting their potential nemesis of sorts. So we'll see the longevity of this character, but it is a first appearance of this character, Mutina, here on the 1 in 50. She is on the cover A. She is on a trade dress version of this as well, so don't get too crazy about this. Is the only cover appearance. This just happens to be the highest ratio incentive, and it is a nice looking cover to boot. So this 1 in 50 has already seen a dozen sales. It's averaging above ratio at about 65 bucks, even hitting a high of 80 bucks a few times over the last week or so. So keep that in mind as well. Will it maintain that price? I don't know. It will all depend, I think, A, on the longevity of the character, and B, how many more of these copies come to market, because, you know, that always affects the price, obviously. But we're talking about the bottom of the list here with, like I said, over a dozen sales. I think I counted like 14 or so far, but that's through Friday morning when I did my data run. So that's only about a day and a half on the market. So not a lot of, not a lot to work with just yet. So a lot of this is projecting forward into the next week. So with that said, based off of that, it's earned its spot at number 9, but we'll keep it going here with the next one at number 8.
Number 8.
Another incentive variant hits the bottom of the list new this week, the Yasmin Putri cover for Magic number 7. I like this cover a lot. I like the regular cover as well, but I do enjoy this 1 in 25 by Yasmin Putri. Over a dozen sales already. This thing's averaging about 37 bucks, highs hitting 50. So it's just one of those early standouts as far as incentive variants go, being above ratio price, selling at a decent volume, because yes, there are a lot of incentives that came out this week, a lot of second print incentives that came out this week. But to me, there's a difference between a dozen sales and 2. So I don't like looking at just 2 sales, but at least a dozen for the amount of time we're talking about here, considering these books just got released on Wednesday and it's only early Friday that I'm doing this list. That makes, to me, makes sense in the demand and volume kind of rationale. So with that, I put this one here at number 8 based off of these numbers, but it was a battle. It was a battle with our next book. So I won't keep you in suspense. I'll let you know what that book is here right now at lucky number 7.
Number 7.
Oh, so close between all 3 of these variants here at the bottom, but this one I put ahead of the pack because I'm a little biased. It is a Dan Panosian cover. I do like the look of it here with the Werewolf, but as far as data goes, it's pretty darn close. Volume-wise, a couple less sold. Only about 10 sales here. I think I counted up about 9 or 10 through this morning, but it's averaging slightly more at $40 on average, as opposed to the $37 for the Magic. And then meanwhile, the Uncanny is only at $65 when it's a 1 in 50 ratio. So, the price above ratio kind of was best here, which is why I put this one ahead of the pack. No wolf pun intended. But with that average of 40, it slightly edged out the Magic book because it also had a high of 50 bucks so far this week. So very tight, very closely contested at the bottom of the list here with these new incentives. But it is interesting to see that people who have been ignoring a lot of the incentives the last couple of months are kind of turning back this week, at least, to some of these newer books. Or maybe these books are just standing out because there's not a lot else standing out to me on the market as far as sales go the past week or so. I don't know. We'll see. We still have San Diego coming on the way, so we are bound to see another rush once we get some more news and movie announcements and characters and all that fun stuff. We'll see what will happen when the market goes from there. But for now, it's some slim pickings this week. I'll admit it. But with that said, we still got more to go, so let's check out our next book here at number 6.
Number 6.
An old favorite comes back on the list. Again, related to the Superman film, Mr. Terrific's first appearance here, Inspector number 54. This is still a pricey book. It is not cheap. It is not easy to come by, but interest is back on this book. Why? Because Mr. Terrific is bound to get a spinoff. There's rumors of television shows possibly. Who knows? But a spinoff project seems to be in the works for Mr. Terrific, so he is not done after that appearance in the Superman film. With that said, a dozen sold this week doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a 300% increase from the week before. And for a book that's averaging over $100, that's a decent amount. Granted, we're not talking Silver Age type prices, but there's a big difference between a book like the Justice League book that's usually a $1 to $5 book jumping up to $15 as opposed to just a bunch of copies selling of a book that averages over $100 moving. So that's a bigger investment for people, but more people doing so, as you can see by that volume increase. Meanwhile, 9.8, $436. And there were actually a couple of 9.8 sales this week, all about $400 and up. But the 436 was the highest of the week. And I think there were at least 3, maybe even 4 9.8 sales, or maybe it was 3 9.8s and 1 9.6. But out of those 12 dozen sold, a lot of them were graded and a lot of them were at that high price. That did not factor in the average. The average price is just the raw average. So that 105 is just based off of the raw comic sales. I didn't want to factor in the CGC prices because that's not an apples to apples comparison. So I separate those things out where I can. So with that said, that's the bottom half of the list, but we still have the top half of the list to go. So let's see what we got left here at number 5.
Number 5.
So claiming our number 5 spot, we have Doctor Strange number 1. This book started to gain some ground last week following the finale and the finishing episodes of Riri Williams' Ironheart. Not to spoil it, I also have not seen that show. Again, no time with my son's sports schedule, but I will catch up and I will get all this stuff down. Hopefully this weekend I can play some catch up on this viewing. But Zelma apparently showed up on that show. Does that mean we'll see her going forward? Is a Strange Academy show bound to be dropping at some point? I don't know, but the pieces are there. It's a possibility. We'll at least lay it there. But this is Zelma's first appearance here in the 2015, 2016 run of Doctor Strange. Chris Bacalo on the cover here. Fun read, fun run, 30 plus sales this week. Again, this is pretty much a cheap book, much like the Justice League book where you could find copies for $1 to $5 easily in most places. But highs this week already hitting $15 with a CGC 9.8s, averaging right under $100 at about 90. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping. There are multiple covers on this book, not too many, but there are a handful of open order covers and then even some incentives to boot. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping for your first Zelma. But that is why this book finds itself here at the number 5 spot. But we still got 4 more to go, so let's see what they are here next.
Number 4.
And at number 4, maintaining its position, we have that gorgeous Storm Shadow negative space variant for G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 318, Francis Portela. These covers have been great this entire run. And if you check out the OLI, you'll see another book this week has been gaining some steam, almost even made the list if we had a few more sales. But check out the OLI next with the boys on the qualified for more info on that. But for this book, why did it hang on to this number 4 spot? It hung on because, well, not only did it maintain volume and prices, it increased across the board. Even if it's slightly, it still jumped. So with nearly 30 sold, that's a 44% increase in volume from last week, with the average jumping up 29% to now $36 for this 1 in 10. That's right, $36 on average for this 1 in 10, with a high hitting $65, which is a 63% increase from last week's high of 40. So look at that. Last week's high was 40. These are now averaging 36. So most copies are now hitting last week's high. Highs even higher. More copies sold than last. So this all equals holding on to its spot at number 4. Thought about making it jump, but there's still more above this that we still need to talk about. But holding at number 4, we have our Real American Hero number 318. And with that, let's move on to the list for our top 3.
Number 3.
Falling down from the top spot the last 2 weeks, still hanging on at number 3, we have Street Fighter number 1. Yes, this book is still selling very well, basically outpacing a lot of other books on the list or on most lists. This Street Fighter #1 is still moving well, but it is dropping 2 spots because the volume isn't where it was last week. It's down about 20% because I had about 50 plus sales this week, where last week was like 70. So we dropped a little bit percentage wise, while the prices are pretty much hanging in that $15 average raw, because there's some cheap ones, there's some beat up ones. But if you get a newsstands and poly bags, you're going to pay a premium for those. But overall, still, that raw average is hanging in there about 15 bucks. But the high hitting 40 was for one of those newsstand poly bagged editions. That is a 33% jump from last week's high on this particular book. And meanwhile, 9.8s are creeping up even more, up 7% from last week, up to 175 on a 9.8 for this Street Fighter book from Malibu. Now, again, who knows where this is going to go, but a lot of excitement for this new movie with casting announcements and rumors still out there. Still a lot more to come on this. Will it have anything to do with the comic? Who knows? But a lot of people are trying to get involved early by picking up the comic, and you so can do that as well if you want to pay these prices. Again, cheap ones are still out there, so don't worry about overpaying. If you just want to give it a read, you could probably find yourself a decent reader out there for cheap. But with that said, it's fallen down to number 3, which leaves us with 2 more books on the week. So let's take a look and see what they are.
Number 2.
And at number 2, I had this on the OLI a few weeks ago, wondering when people were going to start looking at the Hood because of his involvement in the Ironheart TV show. And people are finally doing so. So the Hood finds itself here at number 2, mostly thanks to some volume, as prices have been kind of up and down on this book for the last couple of years. But we're bound to see the character again, playing the role of the villain for the most part. Not the big bad, but one of the bads in the series, as I understand it. Again, I haven't watched the whole thing, so I still got a lot on my plate. With that said, 100% increase in volume from last week, even though last week is when the show ended. 30 plus sales. So a lot of people are now looking into picking up more info on this character after the series is now completed. So the Hood up 100% with raw average prices back up to 28 bucks, which is a 65% increase from the week before's average for raws. Yeah, I did all the math. That's what it worked out to. CGC 9.8s are still around 190 bucks for this thing. Again, nowhere near the all-time highs, but still maintaining pretty well. And again, the volume rush is surprising following the completion of the series. Mostly, I guess, people's expectations and seeing the character with more to do and more to come. There's rumors of involvement of this character potentially going into adaptations for maybe Damnation, things with the Midnight Suns, whatever iteration that might be. A lot of rumors, a lot of speculation still on what's to come in the MCU with some of these more darker corner type characters. And we'll probably see more of them in the future. But with that said, the Hood doing well this week, which takes us to one more book in our top spot. So let's see what that is.
And our number 1.
Claiming the top spot once again after a few weeks, I want to say maybe a month or two. Superman, A Friendship Unleashed, because, well, as I mentioned at the outset, Superman is out this week in theaters. And folks are reminded about this dog biscuit giveaway book. Yes, you had to buy your milk bones to get your comic, like I did. I just got one because they said limit 1, but apparently you were able to buy more than one if you wanted to. They sold out long ago, though, for this Superman, A Friendship Unleashed. This book finding itself back here on top with about 60 sales this week, which is a 185% jump from last week. Because since the last time this book was here at the top, it has dipped quite a bit. Those copies were easily 50 bucks at the time. Now we're averaging about 40, but they hit as low as about like 25, 30 bucks for a while there. And you'll still see some $20 to $30 sales. Some have the biscuits, some do not. High hit 70 though this week, which is a bounce back from last week's high, which was only 60. So we're seeing all kinds of rebounds as far as volume and prices go on this book. And then there was that weird standout 9.8 sale of $1,000, which I don't know. It doesn't seem logical to me. We did see, I have reported on this before, some 9.8 sales early on that were close to 500 bucks, but then they ended the week at 275. And yes, there was another 275 9.8 sale this week. So why did somebody pay $1,000? I don't know. Could be not a completed sale. Don't know, or maybe it is. If you were involved in the sale, please let us know in the comments down below. But that does seem like a strange outlier. But I had to report on it nonetheless because eBay has it so far as a completed sale at $1,000. So if it's the case, great sale. Good on you for getting $1,000 for this book. I don't see how or why it's going to hold that price, because it couldn't even do that weeks ago when the high price was $500. But who knows? Who knows where this might go in the future? I've got my theories, but I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I want to keep the excitement up for the movie, so I'm looking forward to seeing Superman. And apparently a lot of folks are too, as they're going back and buying a lot of these books related to the film or tied in with crypto and soups, etc. So with that all said, that is our list for this week. But don't go anyway. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. The boys will have the outside looking in books along with a Deja Thoris spotlight, among a few other segments that they do every week on The Qualified. So stick around and hang out with the boys for a good time, starting next as soon as I'm done here. And with that, I'll see you all later with some more content. Okay?